Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Farrance, and I'm chairman of Hartley Wintney Parish Council, a role which I've been privileged to fulfil, I guess, for the last 2 years or so. It's actually not a role I aspired to. It was, some might call it a happy accident, some might call it an unhappy accident, but here I am. And I've had an interesting, challenging and engaging couple of years. And I know Chris Cornwall and Dorothy will recognise the title to this short session and the where it's come from. So I'll be going over a lot of ground they're familiar with, but I think it's still an interesting story and an interesting narrative. I guess one could say at the moment, parish councils don't generally get a very good press. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Jackie Weaver episode, and I'm pleased to say that our parish council is much more civilised than that, and I'm sure the other local parish councils are as well. Apparently, there's been something about parish council elections on the Archers. Not that I listened to it. I'm not quite in that category. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the acerbic style of Jeremy Clarkson. So he was writing in the Sunday Times a couple of weeks ago, because I think he's having a run-in as he builds his farm in Chipping, wherever it is. But he was saying that, and I'm quoting this, but I think it's valid enough, that parish councils are clubs for people who want everything to remain as it was in 1858. In a village, most people are charming and happy to smile and wave at the appropriate time, but there's always a tiny minority who are bitter and whose mouths look like part of a cat's anatomy. These people are usually called parish councillors. He goes on to say, seniority in this weird world is achieved by having lived in the area for a long time. And certainly in my experience, that badge comes out quite frequently and quite readily. And that parish councils are clubs for people who want everything to remain as it was in 1858. So you can see we've got a mountain to climb. And I guess one of the challenges that I've found is how to engage effectively with the community, because our role is to act as a go-between, I guess, our level of governance and the next levels up, and also to reflect the views of the community. And sometimes you end up just caught in the middle, not being able to please anyone at any time, for that matter. And I know, for example, in our experience, parking in the village is something that comes up again and again and again. And the fact of the matter is, there is no simple answer. There's no Piers Morgan black or white solution. It's a question of making the best of where you are, even if it's not perfect in everybody's views. And one of the issues is in terms of engagement, that most people only engage when something goes wrong or it's in their back garden. And that's an observation, not a criticism, but certainly our experience with the neighbourhood plan, for example, a couple of years ago, was that the nearer a potential site was to your back garden, the more you were likely to be interested in the outcome. And we've had, I'd like to think, a very constructive and ongoing discussion with a major site in the village, Grey House, and how that can be used going forward for the benefit of the community as a whole. I don't think I have a bias reaction. So I think in the corporate world, if they say if you stand still, you're dying. And I tend to take that view too with the parish council, that the challenge is always to retain the best of the good that we've got in the village, in the community, but to be open to broader influences and to recognise that exactly that, you cannot stand still. You need to be doing things. You need to be moving things in the right direction, or open to feedback from a diverse variety of sources. And again, some of the time you may not agree with what you're saying, and when you open yourselves up to those sorts of conversations, you have to take the flak as well. So in that respect, COVID has been, as I think many organisations, many people have found, has been a game changer, and it's certainly allowed us to have a conversation with the community that might have happened, but over a longer period of time, and to respond more promptly to the emerging needs. And we've been, I think, and Dorothy and Chris have been a very effective part of this, very good at molding our service model, I guess, our service support model to the emerging needs and understanding what form they take. So one of the major outcomes from the COVID and this passion I have for engagement was what we've set up as and called a community hub. And the phrase a community for all ages came out of that, actually came from our vicar, but it for me provides a very compelling mandate for what we should be looking to do, both as a parish council, but both also utilising other mechanisms we have in the village. And we've had for some time a very effective care service, support service, over 55 club, which Dorothy is the prime leader in. And that's provided us, as a parish council, with excellent access to probably groups that we wouldn't reach in any other sort of way. And what emerged from that was what emerged from a survey we did was at least in fact a very good level of community feedback on where they saw the priorities for a parish council being. And interestingly, almost top of the list with the public toilets, which we probably, with our accountant's hats on in the parish council, viewed as just as a cost, without recognising the extent, the depth and the breadth, I suppose, of the facility they provide. What also came out of that was a strong support for the community bus, which we found to be particularly valuable as we've been for some time now, maybe a couple of years, looking at how we move from the arrangement that, again, I think Dorothy was involved in, the Chris, a very robust arrangement for providing a community bus service, how we morph that into a community for all ages bus support process. So that came out second, actually. Top of the list, this was the preferential parking bays we have in the high street. But the point of this is that no matter how incomplete it is, how selective it is in terms of people respond to it, it is an evidence base. And I'm particularly keen that when the parish council makes its decisions, it's not just a collection of individual views, it has an evidence base. And sometimes this may not be as robust as you would like, but I don't know, maybe I'm putting my neck on the block here by saying that no evidence is bad evidence. And again, it's probably a question of what you do with it. So we now have, in addition to the parish council doing, fulfilling its broad range of activities, we now have a community hub. And I've shared with Mark in previous conversations what the outcome of that has been. And it is, I guess, a cluster, a mosaic of support packages for various parts of the community, recognizing, for example, changing in work patterns, recognizing too that mental health has a broader reach and a swathe of people than it might have done previously in raising awareness there, recognizing that teenagers are as affected by COVID as the rest of us are, and looking at how we can support them in terms of not just the mental health, but the range of activities we provide in the village. So one of the things we're working on is a youth council. And interestingly, a little while ago, I had a couple of 3 letters, in fact, from children at Greenfield School, and I get confused with how you describe them, but I think there were sort of 7 or 8-year-olds. Three of them had written to me about the neighbourhood plan. And I found that amazing because it was quite difficult to get older people engaged in the neighbourhood plan. But again, I'm going to be meeting with their teacher tomorrow, in fact, to see how we might have a young council for that sort of age group, and how we can get them interested in community affairs. So that's an interesting, I guess, dimension to the outreach, which I'm keen to established, and keen for my fellow parish councillors to do so as well. So I don't think we're rooted in 1858. I think we've moved on a bit, and that we are increasingly alive to the broader needs of a society that doesn't stand still, that does change, and where there are pockets of interest that we should probably be paying more attention to. I'm not sure where we are with the timing, Mark. How am I doing at the moment?
You're doing fine. You can do it another few minutes if you wish. Okay,
so let me just go through the menu of activities that emerge from the community health. One is mental health, which I talked about. One is looking at the various changes in work patterns, people working from home, people newly made redundant. Looking too at working mums. We labelled them mums in the middle, maybe with young children who go off to school and there's an empty space. I have to be careful what I say here. I don't want to be sexist, but mums, in my experience, are always busy, but some space for themselves, but some personal space, whether that could be during the day or in the evening. The youth council I've mentioned. Chris, I know, is looking at getting in a men's shed, which again is an interesting space to fill. We talked about the community bus and young families as well. How we stimulate intergenerational engagement, and there are a number of events that we have in mind that could cause that to happen. And certainly the IT area is one where we can get, for example, people from Robert Mays engaging with people who need support and help with today's internet world. So that essentially, I guess, is the journey to the community for all ages, and the mechanisms and processes we've put in place to cause it to happen. Because these things, you have to get these things off a piece of paper into the real world, and that's easier said than done. But again, I guess is for me the essence of being a parish councillor, being a chairman, and engaging with the community as best as we can. So thank you for your attention.